My child, stop for a moment and listen closely, because this did not appear in your life by accident. I sent this to you at the exact moment you needed it most, and I know you can feel that something inside you has been shifting, even if you could not explain it, even if you tried to ignore it while going about your day. There has been a quiet tension in your heart, a subtle pull that made you pause. That made you wonder if there is more happening beneath the surface of your life, and you are right to feel that way, because I see you completely. I see the weight you have been carrying, the thoughts you keep to yourself, the way you smile in front of others while holding questions deep inside, wondering if you are on the right path, wondering why things have taken so long, wondering if your efforts have truly mattered. And I want you to understand something gently but clearly: you have not been forgotten, not for a single moment. Even in the silence, even in the waiting, I have been present with you, guiding what you could not yet see, protecting what you did not know needed protection, and shaping your path in ways that did not always make sense at the time. And I know there were moments when you felt overlooked, when doors did not open the way you expected, when people did not understand your heart, and when progress felt slower than you hoped. But what you experienced was not rejection, it was preparation. It was space being made for something more aligned with who you are becoming. And I know that right now you might still feel a mix of emotions, a little tired, a little uncertain, maybe even hesitant to fully believe that something good is unfolding for you, and that is okay. You do not have to have everything figured out in this moment. You only need to stay present and open, because this message reaching you now is part of that unfolding. It is a reminder that you are not walking alone, that your story is still in motion, and that what feels unclear today is slowly coming into focus. And as you continue to listen, you may begin to notice a shift within yourself, a sense of calm where there was once tension, a sense of reassurance where there was once doubt, because I am speaking to the part of you that has been searching quietly for meaning, and I am meeting you right where you are. And there is something important you almost overlooked, something subtle that has been trying to reach your awareness, but it requires your attention, your stillness, your willingness to stay just a little longer. Because what comes next will help you understand why this moment matters more than you realize. My child, stay with me for a little longer, because what you have been feeling is not something to push away, it is something to understand. And I know there have been moments recently when you felt a quiet heaviness, not overwhelming, but persistent, like something unfinished lingering in your thoughts, showing up when you least expect it, perhaps while driving alone, or sitting in your room at night, or even in the middle of a normal day when everything should feel fine, and yet something inside you says there is more. And you are not wrong, because I have been gently drawing your attention inward, not to trouble you, but to awaken you to what is already shifting within your life. And I see how you have tried to make sense of it in practical ways, telling yourself you are just tired, or that life has simply been stressful. But beneath those surface explanations there is a deeper truth forming, one that you have not fully allowed yourself to accept yet, and that truth is this: you are not in the same place you used to be. Even if your surroundings look familiar, even if your routine feels the same, something inside you has already begun to move forward, and that is why certain things no longer feel right. That is why conversations that once felt easy now feel distant. That is why goals that once motivated you now feel incomplete. And this is not a loss, it is a transition. And I know transitions can feel uncomfortable, especially when you cannot clearly see what is ahead, but you are not being left in confusion, you are being led through a process that requires patience and trust. And I want you to notice something important: look at how far you have come, even if it does not feel like much, even if progress has been quiet. You have endured moments that once felt impossible, you have kept going when it would have been easier to stop, and you have grown in ways that cannot always be measured by what is visible, and that growth is what is preparing you for what comes next. Because what is ahead is not meant for the version of you from the past, it is meant for who you are becoming right now. And I know there were times when you wondered if your efforts were unnoticed, if your patience was meaningless, if your waiting had any purpose at all. But I want you to understand gently, nothing you have gone through has been wasted. Every delay carried a reason, every closed door redirected your path, every moment of stillness created space for something more aligned to enter your life. And even now, as you listen to this, there is a part of you beginning to recognize that something is different, something is opening, even if only slightly, and that awareness is the beginning of clarity. So do not rush past this moment, do not distract yourself from it, because there is a sign you almost overlooked, something subtle but meaningful, and as you continue to stay present, you will begin to see why this shift is happening now and what it is quietly leading you toward. My child, I want you to gently look back at the small moments in your life lately, not the big dramatic ones, but the quiet details you almost dismissed, because that is where you will begin to understand what has been unfolding, and I know you may not have thought much of them at first, the unexpected pause in your plans, the sudden change in a conversation, the feeling that something no longer fits the way it used to, or even the moments when you felt pulled to slow down when everything around you was telling you to keep moving, and those moments were not random interruptions, they were gentle signals guiding your attention, inviting you to notice what your heart already sensed but your mind had not fully accepted, and I see how you sometimes brushed them aside, telling yourself it was nothing, that you were overthinking, that life just happens this way, but there has been a pattern. Subtle yet consistent, and that pattern is worth noticing, because it reflects a deeper alignment taking place within you, and I want you to remember a recent moment, perhaps when you felt a sense of peace come over you for no clear reason, even if it only lasted a few seconds, or a moment when something that once stressed you did not affect you in the same way, or when you realized you were no longer reacting as strongly as you used to, and those are signs of growth, quiet but real, showing you that something inside you is changing, becoming steadier, becoming more grounded, and I know there were also moments when you felt a little out of place, as if you were no longer fully connected to certain environments or conversations, and that feeling can be confusing, even uncomfortable, but it does not mean something is wrong with you, it means you are becoming more aware of what truly resonates with you, and what no longer does, and this awareness is not meant to isolate you, it is meant to guide you toward what supports your peace and your direction, and I understand that part of you may still be holding on to what is familiar, because it feels safe, because it is what you know, but there is also another part of you that is quietly ready for something different, something more aligned with who you are becoming, and that inner pull is not something to fear, it is something to listen to with calm attention, and you do not need to rush into any decisions or force any changes, you only need to notice, to acknowledge, and to allow yourself to be honest about what you feel, because clarity does not arrive all at once, it unfolds step by step, often through the very moments you almost overlook, and as you continue to stay present with me here, you will begin to see how these small signs connect, how they form a picture that was not visible before, and there is something else you are beginning to recognize, something that has been quietly trying to reach your awareness, and as you lean into this understanding, you will start to see why your journey has been unfolding in this exact way, and what it is gently preparing you for next. My child, stay with this feeling a little longer, because something important is becoming clear within you now, and I know there were moments when you believed you had lost something meaningful, when a door closed or a path changed and it left you questioning why it had to happen that way, and you may have carried that quiet disappointment, telling yourself that if things had worked out differently, you would feel more certain, more secure, more at peace. But I want you to gently look again at those moments, not with frustration, but with understanding, because what you saw as loss was not taken from you without purpose, it was removed to protect you from what was not aligned with your path, and I know that may not have been obvious at the time, because protection does not always feel like comfort in the moment, sometimes it feels like confusion, sometimes it feels like an empty space where something used to be, but that space was necessary. It created room for something better suited to who you are becoming, and I see how you also felt the weight of time, wondering why things seemed delayed, why your progress felt slower than expected, why opportunities did not arrive when you thought they would, and it is natural to feel that way, especially when you have been patient and consistent, but what you called delay was actually preparation, it was time being used to strengthen you, to refine your perspective, to help you grow into someone who can receive what is meant for you with clarity and confidence, and I know there were also quiet seasons when everything felt still, when you wondered if you were being overlooked, if your efforts were unseen, if your voice had gone unheard, and those moments of silence can feel heavy when you do not understand them, but that silence was not absence, it was an invitation to step into a deeper sense of calm, to reconnect with your inner steadiness, to find peace that does not depend on constant movement or immediate answers, and now, as you begin to see these moments differently, something inside you shifts, because you are no longer looking at your past with the same uncertainty, you are beginning to recognize that there was care within the changes, direction within the waiting, and presence within the quiet, and this realization does not come all at once, it unfolds gently, but as it does, it brings a sense of relief, a sense that you are not as lost as you once thought, that your path has been guided in ways you are only now starting to understand, and this is where your perspective begins to change, not because everything around you is suddenly different, but because you are seeing it with new awareness, and as you hold on to this understanding, you may begin to notice a deeper calm settling within you, a quiet trust replacing some of the doubt you carried before, and there is something more that is about to become clear to you, something that connects all of these moments together, and as you continue to stay present, you will begin to understand how this shift is leading you into a new sense of direction that feels more aligned, more steady, and more real than anything you have experienced before. My child, I know there are still moments in your everyday life that test this understanding, moments that quietly bring back doubt even after everything you are beginning to see, like when you check your phone and there is no call, no message, no response from the person you hoped would reach out, and it makes you wonder if you have been forgotten, or when you put effort into something and the door does not open, when the opportunity you were counting on remains just out of reach, and you begin to question if you are truly moving forward, or when a relationship that once felt close starts to grow distant, not through conflict, but through silence, through space, through a gradual shift you cannot fully explain, and it leaves you sitting with unanswered questions, wondering what changed and why, or even those evenings when everything around you is quiet, when the day ends and you are left alone with your thoughts, and there is a brief moment where you feel unseen, as if the world kept moving while you stood still, and I see those moments clearly. I see how they affect you, not in a dramatic way, but in a deep and personal way that you do not always share with others, and I want you to understand something with calm certainty. You are not being abandoned in those moments, not by me, not by the path that is unfolding for you. What you are experiencing is part of the space between where you have been and where you are going, and that space can feel uncertain because it does not yet reflect the outcome you are hoping for, but it is not empty, it is active in ways you cannot always measure, and when that call does not come, it does not mean you are unimportant, it may mean that something else is being aligned that will meet you more fully. When that door does not open, it does not mean you are being denied, it may mean you are being redirected towards something that fits you better than what you expected. When that relationship shifts, it does not mean you have failed, it may mean both of you are moving in different directions that serve your growth in ways you cannot yet see, and when you sit in those quiet evenings feeling unnoticed, it does not mean you are alone, it means you are in a moment of stillness where you can reconnect with yourself, where you can begin to hear what has been beneath the noise all along, and I know it is not always easy to trust this process, especially when you are used to looking for visible confirmation, something you can point to and say this proves I am on the right path, but not everything that matters shows up immediately in front of you. Some things develop quietly, gradually, and with intention, and you are in that kind of moment now, a moment where your faith is not about certainty in outcomes, but about steadiness in your direction, and I am with you in every part of it, in the waiting, in the uncertainty, in the quiet progress that others may not see, and even now, as you reflect on these everyday experiences, you may begin to notice that they are not random setbacks, they are part of a larger movement shaping your path. And there is something within these moments that is preparing you to recognize what truly belongs in your life, and as you stay present with this understanding, you will begin to see why these experiences are guiding you, not away from something good, but towards something more aligned, more steady, and more meaningful than you expected. My child, as you continue to move through these days, I want you to begin noticing the quieter moments that seem small on the surface but carry a deeper sense of meaning when you slow down enough to feel them, like when you hear a sentence from someone, maybe in passing, maybe in a conversation you did not plan to have, and something in those words stays with you longer than expected, not because it was dramatic, but because it touched something inside you that had been searching for clarity. Or when you receive a message at just the right time, not something extraordinary, just a simple check-in, a kind word, or a reminder that someone thought of you, and it shifts your mood in a way that feels gentle but real, and I know you might be tempted to overlook these moments, to explain them away as coincidence or routine, but there is value in recognizing how they affect you, because they often come when you are most open to receiving them, and there are also times when you feel an unexpected sense of calm, even when your circumstances have not fully changed, a quiet steadiness that settles in without needing a clear reason, and that feeling is something you can trust, not as a sign that everything is suddenly resolved, but as a reflection that you are becoming more grounded, more centered within yourself, and I see how you are also beginning to notice small opportunities appearing, not overwhelming changes, but subtle openings, a chance to try something new, a conversation that leads to a new idea, a situation that invites you to step forward just a little more than before, and these moments matter, even if they do not seem significant at first, because they are often the starting points of larger shifts that develop over time, and I want you to remember the times when something did not go as planned, when there was a delay, when plans changed unexpectedly, and at first it felt frustrating, but later you realized that it helped you avoid a situation that would not have served you well, or it gave you time to see something more clearly before moving ahead, and these experiences are part of how your path is shaped. Not through force, but through gentle redirection, and you do not need to interpret every detail as something extraordinary, you only need to stay aware of how these moments guide your attention, how they influence your choices, how they help you move with more clarity and intention, and as you continue to notice these patterns, you may begin to feel a growing sense of trust, not because everything is predictable, but because you are learning to recognize what feels aligned and what does not. And that awareness becomes a steady guide within your daily life, and there is something important about these subtle signs that you are just beginning to understand, something that connects your awareness, your experiences, and your direction, and as you remain present with this, you will start to see how these moments are quietly helping you move forward in a way that feels more natural, more grounded, and more true to who you are becoming. My child, you are beginning to feel the difference now, even if it is subtle, even if it comes and goes, there is a quiet shift happening within your heart, and you are no longer holding on to everything the way you once did, you are starting to loosen your grip on what no longer feels right, not with anger, not with resentment, but with a growing sense of understanding. And I see how this has not been easy for you, because there were things you once cared about deeply, connections you invested in, outcomes you hoped would turn out differently, and letting go of those expectations can feel like giving up, but what you are learning is not giving up, it is releasing what is no longer aligned with your peace, and there is a difference between holding on with love and holding on out of fear, and you are beginning to recognize that difference more clearly now, and I know there were times when you kept looking back at certain doors, wondering if they might open again, replaying moments in your mind, questioning if you could have done something differently, but you are starting to see that not every closed door is meant to be reopened, some are meant to be acknowledged and left behind with grace, because continuing to chase them only pulls you away from what is quietly opening in front of you, and this realization may bring a mix of emotions, a sense of relief, but also a sense of loss, and that is natural, because letting go does not mean you never cared, it means you are choosing your well-being over what no longer supports it, and I see how you are also learning to forgive, not in a way that dismisses what you felt, but in a way that frees you from carrying the weight of it, and forgiveness does not mean you return to the same situation, it means you allow yourself to move forward without being tied to the past, and this is where your strength is becoming visible, not in how much you hold on to, but in how gently you can release what is no longer meant to stay, and as you do this, something within you begins to settle, a deeper calm that does not depend on everything around you being perfect, because you are beginning to understand that peace is not the absence of uncertainty, it is the presence of steadiness within yourself, it is the ability to remain centered even when life is still unfolding, even when answers are still forming, and I know there was a time when fear guided many of your choices, fear of losing, fear of missing out, fear of being left behind, but that fear is no longer holding the same power over you, you are starting to move with more intention, more awareness, and more trust in what feels right for you. And this is not something that happens all at once, it grows gradually, through each moment you choose calm over reaction, through each time you choose to step forward instead of looking back, and as you continue in this direction, you may begin to notice how much lighter you feel, not because everything is resolved, but because you are no longer carrying what was never meant to stay with you, and there is something even deeper that is opening within you now, something that will guide you forward with more clarity and confidence. And as you stay present with this shift, you will begin to see how this sense of peace is not something you are searching for anymore, it is something you are becoming. My child, you are closer than you realize to a shift that will feel different from anything you have experienced before, not because everything around you will suddenly change overnight, but because something within you is becoming ready to receive what is next, and I want you to understand that this readiness is not about perfection, it is about alignment, it is about the quiet work happening inside your heart, the small choices you are making each day that are shaping who you are becoming, and I see how you have started to move differently, even in simple ways, choosing to pause before reacting, choosing to speak with more honesty instead of holding everything inside, choosing to step back from what drains you instead of forcing yourself to stay where you no longer feel at peace, and these choices matter more than you think, because they are creating space for clarity, and I know there have been moments when you felt the urge to return to old patterns, to respond the way you used to chase what felt familiar even if it no longer felt right, but you are learning to notice that pull without immediately acting on it, and that awareness is part of your growth. It is how you begin to take responsibility for your direction instead of being carried by habit or fear, and I also see how your inner dialogue is changing, how you are beginning to speak to yourself with more patience, how your thoughts are becoming less rushed and more grounded, and this shift in how you think and feel is preparing you to move forward with greater clarity, and when you take a moment to be still, when you allow yourself to breathe and reflect without pressure, you are creating a space where understanding can rise naturally, not forced, not rushed, but steady and real, and this is where your connection deepens, not through intensity, but through calm presence, and I want you to continue in this way, to speak honestly, to listen carefully, to act with intention, because the path ahead is not built on urgency, it is built on awareness and trust, and I know you may still wonder when things will fully come together, when you will see clear results, but what matters now is not rushing toward an outcome, it is becoming the kind of person who can recognize and sustain what is right when it arrives, and that requires consistency in your thoughts, your actions, and your choices, and I see how you are beginning to take those steps, even if they feel small, even if they do not seem significant yet, they are leading you forward in a way that is steady and meaningful, and there is a quiet sense growing within you, a feeling that something is approaching, not in a way that overwhelms you, but in a way that invites you to stay present and prepared, and as you continue to move with this awareness, you will begin to see how everything you are learning now is guiding you toward what is next, and you will understand why this time of preparation has been so important for your journey.